sometimes it starts with an idea, and of course it probably depends on what you're writing. So if we're talking about a longer work, then it's a story that you're really committing to. 50,000 words is a lot of time. And then, of course, if you get into longer novels, 80, 100,000 words, which isn't uncommon for various genres, you're committing to something. So it really needs to be an idea that you care about enough to keep going. Then you kind of have to have a system to keep yourself going, even when it doesn't feel like it's going great. So you have to care enough about the story, and you have to trust yourself enough that when you're having a bad day, a day when it feels like the words aren't coming, when it feels like you're just kind of drudging through that kind of thing, you still need to have enough faith in yourself and the story to kind of keep going through those moments and know that anything that doesn't work perfect, you can come back and fix. In terms of going beyond just the practical of being able to keep going, going for the sort of the ideas that you're kind of holding off on. So like I keep a board of titles and things that I can use, and primarily I use those for short stories. But there's a lot of where I think, oh, that's a cool title, I'm going to save that for something, and then I get into the things I have to get done, like the things that are on deadline and all that, and sort of these like dream projects, which again can be a distraction. You can, if you're one of those people that goes for the shiny new object, that can really get in the way of finishing a work. But finding one of those sort of passion projects where it's like, okay, if I could do whatever I wanted, I would write this. And a lot of times we set that, especially if you're doing this for a living, you kind of set that to the side and say, well, I need to focus on the stuff that makes money and the next book in this series and all that, which is good. But sometimes it's good to take that passion project, that thing that like, if I could do anything I wanted, I'd want to write this, and then that I think can spark something as well. Um, in terms of staying motivated, I think it's good um, where you start and where you stop in a work. I think is significant. So I've found like the way I used to do it was I would just write and write and write and write until I ran out of ideas and then I'd stop. Now the problem with starting back the next day was, well, I ran out of ideas. So you're doing all this stuff where I go back and reread and things like that, but you kind of almost feel stuck every day. If you keep writing, 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 and then you kind of stop in the middle of something, like don't finish off the scene. If you have it clear in your head what you want the scene to be, if you stop before the end of that scene, when you come back the next day, you know what you're going to write. And then once you finish that scene, you're kind of on a roll. You kind of got your creative pathways open in your brain, and you're moving again with it. And then sometimes you just got to change up the way you're writing. So like sometimes you can lose passion for a story if it feels like it's not special. Like if you're writing a crime fiction story and it feels like every other story you've ever seen, or it feels like well, that's kind of predictable. I feel like I've seen that in a TV show before. I just got through interviewing an author named S.A. Cosby, who has a one of his books is Blacktop Wasteland. Stephen King was posting about that book, so I'm quite jealous of Mr. S.A. Cosby. I tease him about how jealous I am of him, but I am really proud of him. He one of the things we talked about in his interview is that he does an amazing job of taking left turns when I don't expect it. So I've read a lot of crime fiction, so I kind of have an idea how stories go. His opening scene is sort of this drag race thing, and everybody kind of gets in trouble with the cops and that kind of thing. I'm not going to spoil the story, but it looks like the scene is going a certain way. He drops in hints that it might not be going that way, and you could overlook them because there's this action going on, but then the scene takes a turn from what I expected it to be into something entirely different. And I think that keeps the writing fresh. So I think sometimes if you kind of have a path laid out for your story and it feels like you're just sort of going through the motions, if you get to a moment where you got to make a choice, go with a choice that's not obvious. Make the characters do something that's, I guess, in their character, but is surprising, something that the person in the audience following wouldn't expect. One of the problems with getting bored with a story is that if you're bored with it, there's a real risk that the reader's going to be bored. So the idea, I guess, is to keep yourself excited. Um, you could talk all night about how Rowling has kind of let people down. I was just thinking about that today because again, I have kids that are of that age, and they love those books, and I'm highly disappointed in her, and I don't want to take the joy of it away from my kids, So it's this huge, it's a dilemma for me because I feel like what she's done has has done damage because I remember I was I was teaching school at the time when those books came out. I was teaching elementary and then later middle school, and I remember for the first time seeing kids pick up books that were so thick and so far beyond. It was like when kids used to read like the J.R. The Lord of the Rings books, and seeing kids read like that again was cool. But then my wife worked at churches, and we were working with youth groups, and there's a number of gay teens who were kind of trying to find their place. And of course, this was early 2000s. We've made good progress, but being in the South and being around areas like that, um, it's never been easy to be in the LGBT community, and it was particularly tough in some of the areas we were. But I found a number of those kids really connected with those books in a way that helped a lot, and they continued to love them as they were sort of working out their identity as they got older, once they were away from home, away from school, and could be true to themselves in a way that they maybe couldn't have as easily when they were still figuring things out in high school or when they were under someone else's roof. That was still a source of great comfort for them. And for J.K. Rowling to just suddenly, I guess it wasn't sudden, but to show her true colors, especially with the trans community, who's probably one of the most at risk groups in America from violence and discrimination and everything else. It's such a deep betrayal that it bothered me a great deal.